Hooking it up to YouTube. There we go.
There we go.
And go live in 5, 4. Brent.
Good morning, MPI. Anyway, welcome everybody. Hope you enjoyed the RVP call. We are back 1 hour later, but with the same amount of value. We've been talking about the crusade a lot. We've been working with a company on the crusade big time. We were on a call yesterday with Mike Burrows talking about the crusade, engaging the crusade, weaponizing the crusade. It's really what makes us unique. Nobody does what we do in the industry. Everybody is looking to make sales. We're looking to change lives. And, we've been talking about the crusade on the LFIC quite a bit. But the crusade is much broader than life insurance. Life insurance is a small part. It's a horrible thing that is done to people with the insurance industry. But we were just talking in the pre-show about what the mortgage industry does, especially in Canada, the banking industry, as well as the advisory industry, who charges horrendous fees and provides very little education, very little service. The crusade is financial illiteracy. That is the biggest cause of economic crisis in people's homes. The FIN number, and Arleigh, you are a broken record about the FIN number. It's how you built your business. It's really the most important thing people can focus on in their lives, because let's face it, dying prematurely is not what the biggest risk is in a person's life. It's outliving their money. Can you talk about the crusade a little bit and how it applies to the investment industry? And you're muted right now.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I had a long talk with Aristide last week and on these here new programs, Be Dollar Smart and all the rest. It's been a lot of input from the US, Southern US on, designing these programs. When I looked at it, I had a chance to go through and spend an hour, 2 hours. I said, to me, you're always transaction based in that you're trying to get a will, and yes, it's important, and you're trying to get life insurance. Yes, it's important. You're trying to get a recruit. Yes, it's important. All that's important. But if it came to the big money and the way you're going to make fortunes, it's going to be because you get their money first and you sell them all the other products and you onboard the client with a lifetime relationship. Most people don't understand the FIN number. So all the FIN number does is gets you into the big part of the business first. You get their money, you got the rest. They never will unsubscribe from your emails if you have their money. They never will not buy your other products if you ask them to. They never will not want to be a part of your team if you're helping them reach financial independence. And I think I could go on for hours. This is the most insane. And most of what happens at the dollars at the company is it's all spent on the front end. And that's good, but it's all spent on recruiting and life app and maybe some wills and maybe some home and auto and maybe some other stuff. And that's all good. But the real deal is if we could get an onboarding of the complete client and we could get that tracking going. And I've got a presentation I'm going to do at Baha Mar that I've got Eldon working on right now. And it's going to be talking about onboarding, the process of getting to the destination and the great life you can live at the end. And most of my clients live too long because they're too wealthy and they can afford to get everything done they need to. And that's the problem. I can't have any clients die because they're all wealthy. And so I can't quit because they don't want me to quit. And so it's just a wonderful life.
Yeah. And I mean, what a crusade. What a crusade.
Yeah.
And so Michelle, what about you? How do you relate the crusade in the investment industry, in the overall financial business versus a narrow scope on we're just going out and beating whole life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. I didn't know Arleigh until MPI, and I feel like I grew up in your hierarchy. That's exactly what we've done from day one. We are crusading on the FIN number. And last night I did a family seminar at my office, and there were 6 people in the room who were less than 24 years old, and the parents were in the room and they're in their 40s, and no one has been taught. It doesn't matter how old they are. So it is definitely the financial illiteracy game for us. And I couldn't agree more. Like, that's the crusade, is getting people wealthy.
Yeah, 100%. Mike?
Yeah, before Arleigh bought our code number, we always did the FIN number. We just didn't know it was the FIN number. But none of the stuff is taught in schools. And just think, if it wasn't for Primerica, would any of us be where we're at today? And it's still that way. The big institutions don't want us to know anything. They want to keep us dumbed down so they can make money off of us. And all the stuff we've learned and all the stuff we teach people is it's huge. I mean, our clients are financially independent. And just like Arleigh said, how do you leave when they still want to be have us helping them? So it's just been an awesome ride.
Well, yeah, I mean, retire from what? Helping
right.
people, serving humanity and living a great life. Scott, what do you think? Crusade and how it applies to our industry?
I think lately there's a whole lot of crusades going on, unfortunately, whether it's infinite banking or on our side, all the assets that are going to be moving due to the wall of wealth. And I'm amazed in our business how little service clients get and how they've become so accustomed to lower their expectation to get that. It's amazing to me how, if you're really service oriented, you can take money from lots of people in lots of places.
Even wealthy, right? I mean, even people, because used to be, well, people who have a lot of money, they're well served, but that's not the case anymore. I mean, we're moving big portfolios all the time.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Arleigh, even in a down market, it's surprised. I was looking at our numbers, going over our numbers this morning of what we're moving and how many people are moving 500, 600, 800, 900,000 a month, even in a uncertain market like this. I think, it just goes to show what we offer and the service that we provide.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that we're going to be the big movers because people can trust us. They like us. They've been onboarded and they're not going to jump out of that airplane at 36,000 feet. So we know we've got them and we got to treat them right. And we've got to be there to answer their texts immediately, their emails immediately. And we've got to be there to serve them. But you can do that between shots at the golf course. You can do that while you're sitting at 36,000 feet. You can do that. I had a golf game scheduled this morning because I forgot about the fact that I was supposed to be on here. And I had to offload that job to someone else because there's just no possible way I was going to miss this show for any reason. So that's how it works.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Kurt, I think you're hosting us today. And
I didn't know that.
Oh, sorry, Aristide.
No, I'm
Sorry, Arleigh's hosting us. Kurt, crusade on the investment business, and then we're handing it over to Arleigh today.
All right. Well, I love the crusade in the investment business because I love the fact that if you've got $50, you're important. Yeah. Okay. And that differentiates us from like 99% of everybody out there, because we will spend time with people that don't have a lot of money, because that was me at one point, and that was you. That was all of us at one point. And if somebody wouldn't have taken time to hold our hand and let us ask stupid questions like, how do I spell IRA, to learn, none of us would be anywhere today. So I'm enthralled with that. I get more thrilled, honestly, meeting with a 21-year-old and doing a $200 a month pack than I do with someone with $500,000. Because anybody would talk to the guy with $500,000 or $1 million, but nobody talks to the kid for $100 a month. When I'm dead, and I tell this sometimes to the kids, when you get to retirement, I'm not going to be here anymore. Okay, I'm gonna be gone. And you're going to remember, some balding, little overweight, chubby dude. I'm really glad he taught me this rule of 72 Roth IRA thing, and stuff like that fires me up, man. And you're right. Retire from what?
Yeah. I love it. And Arleigh, you always talk about the lifetime value of a client, taking a guy from $200 a month to $1.7 million in their portfolio. What you get paid for doing that is incredible. So anyway, the show is yours, Arleigh Larson.
Okay, thank you everybody for joining MPI. I think this is probably one of the most incredible shows, and I think the numbers keep climbing. And I'm the Ben Shepherd of the day, so hopefully you can You can hear me all okay. I am going to be the Ben Shepherd of today. I can never be Ben Shepherd. I'm not technical. I'm not studying the numbers, but I do have some numbers and I understand some numbers. So I'm going to talk a little bit different today, maybe for the first 15 minutes. And then we're going to put on our special guest, which is going to be a real treat for you, and somebody that started and is growing a phenomenal business and is in the sort of smaller to middle stage of growing a massive cash flow. So all I can say is I'm going to share my screen and you hang in with me. And can you see that now? Is that up in front of everybody?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about building it big. We're going to talk about building it big in all aspects. You just got off if you were an RVP, you should have been on the RVP show with Primerica, and Glenn did a phenomenal job about talking about it, but he talked about Primerica and the growth, and he's taken the A.L. Williams concept and blown the roof off it and is going to continue to do that. So we can be forever grateful for the mega business we're part of, the moderate sized business, the $1 million to $5 million SNSD. And then there's the associates and the RVPs that seem to struggle at the bottom. And maybe this is the show for you. The myth is the securities producers are not builders. We don't recruit. We don't do anything. Oh no, we just sell securities. That is a pile of crap. I don't have a securities person interested that's in the middle years that doesn't show some interest at one point being part of our business. So the real deal is, what do we really focus on? And we've focused on the same thing since we've ever been in this business. And that is, after 34 years of building, myself and our Fanatic team has recruited over 30,000 people. Okay, and I just went back and added up the numbers, and it's north of 30,000 people. Big deal. I've accumulated over the period probably $100 million personal and given away 40 to 50 million of it. I have 55 million right now, which I can handle with the breeze along with my personal assistant, and I am fully enjoying life to the greatest. The other myth is, if you have a lot of personal clients, you can't enjoy life because you're going to spend all your time servicing them. Trust me, after the first year or two, you're not going to service them much. They're going to just maybe say, hey, I just inherited another $1 million. Could you handle it? Had a doctor the other day that had 3 million. And he said, Arleigh, I want you to take this other 800 from TD Ameritrade and from my MD management in Canada. And so it just comes in. You don't have to even worry. Our base shop's at 160 million. Our total assets with the market drops at about 3.8 billion. We got 1,900 licensed associates in the hierarchy, 150 RVPs, career cash at 36 million, team cash at 28 million a year, 28 million a year going out to the team. And the reason I want to show you that, in order to be on our top 20, our top 50 earners.
Hey, Arleigh.
Yeah.
Can you click on that that closed captioning? Just click and close that, please. That X.
Okay, right there. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you for that. Anytime you see any weird stuff going on, you just ask me to close it because I'll do that. Anyway, so what I want to show you this for is because, you know, we've been tagged as the mutual fund people. Maybe you have, maybe if not, you're going to be, because you're doing a lot of your revenue from mutual funds. And so it's not unusual. The company makes about 70% of the revenue from insurance and 30 from mutual funds. We make about 70 from mutual funds and 30 from insurance. Doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. That just means that we get paid forever from day one. And most of these people you see on here are RVPs. And to get on this list, you had to make 183,000 last year. The number 50 was 183,000. Lots of RVPs wish we'd expand this to 150, which we could, but there has to be a little struggle to get on the leaders bulletin. So I want to talk a little bit for a second about the Blue Book. And this is really not mine. I mean, I'm not technical, but this is for Ben Shepherd. Okay, Ben Shepherd's part of the show is coming up, and hopefully I can get it to work here. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Okay, here we are. Can you see that? Somebody want to chime in and tell me? Okay. So this is really done by the most professional people on the planet. I mean, this isn't something that we come up with and said, oh, well, you know, this is just something that I want to talk about. We have had the Goldilocks days of investing for the last 10, 15 years. But all of a sudden we hit 2022 and our global macro overview has gone nuts and we go, whoa, expect higher interest rates. Central banks or actions will slow our growth. Weaker economy will be a headwind. Be selective about equity positioning. Look for entry points in short-term bonds. Come on, guys. This is what the analysts do. We don't do any of that. But if you need to have some confidence in what's happening, you go here and you look at, okay, central banks slamming the brakes. Okay, what they're doing, they raised interest rates. Look where the interest rates are. What do you think? They're going to go up forever or they're going to over the top and down? No, they're going to go over the top and down. Don't make silly short-term mistakes because of that. Don't worry about a lot of stuff you don't need to worry about. What about inflation? 40-year high, 11.1, 10.6. UK is at 11.1, and you start looking at these inflation rates and you go, oh my goodness, the only good one is Japan. And so the US wants to drop it to 2%. Do you think it's going to keep going up? No, there's a couple squigglies already started coming down, and the American and the US one is going to come down. The Canadian one is going to come down. So all I can say is don't worry about inflation. Okay, what are you going to worry about? Well, growth stalls in the face of higher rates. Yeah, this is the growth. Okay, have you seen this graph since 2006, how many times it went down? And it only goes so far till it goes way back up, and it goes up quick. In 2008, that happens. It happened a little bit in 2012. In 2020, it happened. And we were at an all-time high. And in 2022, it came down. What's going to happen this year? Well, you draw the line. You can draw the line. And you don't have to be a genius. You just got to understand, if you've been 10 years in this business, you lived through the Goldilocks years. If you now have been just, 1 year, if 2022 was your first year to be licensed, you have been slapped around, banged around, kicked around, because everybody you put into the securities business, you're ready to quit. But you know what? You got them positioned. And right now, if you're getting licensed or new people licensed, you should be telling them that they're coming into the best time of the history, probably, of our company, because the money's going to roll their way, because they'll look like superstars for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. But overall, it doesn't change anything. So earnings face up an uphill battle. Earnings are earnings. And in 2023, they're going to show most countries are positive earnings. Europe is considered maybe going to be slow, but all the rest earnings in 2023. 2022, they were down. So yeah, naturally, the market followed them down. So what are the themes? Financial tightening, no pain, no gain. Guess what? Price for investment, bond funds. Bond funds have never dropped with equity funds, but they do, and they've come down lower than ever. Well, if you're really worried and you want to do fixed income bonds, yeah, they could be really good. Man, you're going to get a pickup in the market. You know that, because things will return to normal. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to stop and study it. You just have to know that every time there's bad news, you should be clapping. You should be having a good time, because that's how it's going to work. Economic slowdown, how broad and how deep? Oh, everybody's worried. We're going into a recession. I tell my clients most times, you know what? Most times the market will go up during a recession. You ought to be really excited. Now, we're going to make all this available to you, because Eldon's got the file and he'll upload it. So you can have it. When you take a look at the slower growth poses investment risks, hey, there's not a lot of investment risk. When you look at this, they say one possibility down, the rest all up, and you don't have to know everything about it. So the ongoing trend of toughness on China policies by the Americans, yeah, read about it. Don't worry about it. Take a look at how Europe braces for a cold winter. Hey, look at what Europe come from, where they are, and what do you think? Europe is if you took a look at the numbers now for January, Europe is one of the top producers. China and Europe. Why? Because they were the lowest. I mean, you don't have to be brilliant, but you don't have to also chase it. If you buy the proper kind of a portfolio, you're going to have a little bit of this in your portfolio, and it's going to work. Asset classes. So what are we talking about with Canadians? Canadian equities. Hey, we're out of the chute. We're beating all the markets a lot of the time. But when you look at the tech crash, every time the tech crashed, when it crashed in 98, the Canadian market did great for almost 10 years. Now we've had another tech crash, and we're looking at the techs being down. We'll probably get a major outperform in the Canadian market. U.S. market's been strong. U.S. equities, don't even think about ever worrying about it. You could put, and I've heard a lot of people say that, you could put all your money in U.S. equities. And I've heard Kurt say that. Mark, you guys, we all know the big market is the US, the entrepreneurship. Yes, it sounds crazy when you listen to some of the stuff of the government, but look at the returns and look at what's going to happen if you really keep invested with a $10,000 investment, you know, from 1970 till now. And guess what? You just had a drop. You just had a buying opportunity. Anything you do now, you could shoot an arrow, you could shoot a dart, you're going to look like a hero. Same thing with European equities. I mean, and if you're buying the proper kind of portfolio, you own global equities, you own US equities, you own Canadian equities. You don't have to worry. You could buy an asset allocation and it's probably going to reward you big time. All I can say is it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. Asian equities, another little drop, right? You could look at that and go, whoa, I don't know, I'm scared. Oh, don't be scared when things are down. Get a little bullish. When things are up, get a little scared. That's the words of our famous, Warren Buffett. Like when things are bad, get greedy. When things are good, get a little scared and give some away. Let people have some. That's the kind of stuff. But for us, we're buy and hold investors. We never, very seldom change much. I don't think we need to talk about anything very much other than, you look at these graphs, you're going to have them. And I don't want to take up time from our guest speaker. So all I can say is there's a whole lot more here. Every market is considered around the globe on this. You just go ahead and look at it. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't, well, didn't cost you much. 10 minutes of listening to me babble on. That's about all it was. And I'm going to go back to my slides and I'm going to talk to, just a second here. I'm going to go back and talk about our guest speaker, because I think that's one of the most phenomenal things we ever do is we get the people in here that we see are incredible. And I was talking last week, we were talking with John Lavin. Can you see that okay? Is it up there?
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking with John Lavin. John said, I love Mark and Caroline Spina, whatever, however. I said, you know what? Sounds to me like we better have him as a guest on MPI. And so we reached out to Mark, and sure enough, we found out what great people these are. And so if you take a look here, here's a little history. Was born in Brooklyn, New York. They met in Brooklyn in 1989, married in 1997. And all the time, that this history is going on. They were living and enjoying their life and making $100,000 a year. And they started with Primerica in 2010, part-time to make $500 a month. It was part-time for 6 years. The first 5 years, worked one night a week. Earned $40,000 a year, 3 years in a row as a part-timer, earned the watch in 2014, earned the ring in 2017, earned an RVP promotion in 2019, went on to MIT as the number one of 173 RVPs, in 2019, left a strong replacement. One part of the replacement is now earning over 150,000. Another one is a region leader at 50, earned a power builder ring. Current 12 months cash flow, $351,000. I'll bet you he wishes he stayed teaching school at this point. Career cash over 1.6 million. That is absolutely stunning. And then you take a look at some more highlights. Took home number one at the convention, Bayshop Securities for 2017. Set a company record as RL for initial securities volume and total securities volume 12 months with 14.3 million and 18.6 million in 2017. Override AUM is 70,000 for 2022. Recurring AUM 75,000. Recurring and override income 145,000. Personal AUM 60 million. Base shop AUM 90 million. I can tell you, I am so proud of what you do, Mark and Caroline. That is absolutely amazing. But here's another powerhouse he has. His wife Caroline is fully licensed, including mortgage and principal licenses, and oversees the back office at this point. Her unbridled support has allowed me to be the lead agent, and I'm eternally grateful we get to build our business together as best friends and soulmates. Thanks again for the opportunity to share. And that is just the absolute most incredible thing that you've ever seen when you think about all the pluses. And I'll let him talk more about what's going on. Mark, you're looking as good as ever. I think you're pretty pumped. Take it away.
Thank you, Arleigh. And thank you. Arleigh was at my MIT class, and Anybody that is under vice president on today's Zoom or on today's call, I should say, you know what? It is pretty cool when you go RVP and you get to meet the leaders that are on this Zoom and others that they fly in from outside the country. And Arleigh, just so you know, you had a profound impact. There were things that I was doing, and you altered things in a positive way. And I can't thank you enough for that. I don't even know if you know you did that, but it was just one of those sidebar conversations that you get to have when you're at MIT. With that said, I'm going to share my screen and cue it up. Obviously, we're talking about the crusade. That is me in a nutshell. I was a school teacher, came into this world part-time, just looking to do what so many people that are on the Zoom right now, just, want to help make the world a better place, make an extra money for your family. But I fell in love with the crusade. One of the things that I've learned and on the goal of today is to hey, what were the staples to build our business to the point it is right now? I'm going to share what I feel are the key things to help anybody that's trying to get to the next level. Jim Coker, also at MIT, said, our businesses are built on the questions we ask, the stories we tell, and the analogies we share. And I think it's important, all of us as leaders and, as growing leaders to remember that, like for ourselves, for our teammates, and kind of inspect what you expect and try to help each and every one of your teammates to learn this part of the business, that it's communication and how we do it. If people find us relatable, then they want to do business with us, and that's a win for everybody. I also picked up some greats from the legends in the business. On the left side, you got Jim Penn. It was a 2013, they always say the meeting that you need to go to is the one you don't want to. Well, that was one of them. And it was that moment I had the epiphany where it's us versus them. And that came from Jim Penn and traveling an hour and a half to a meeting that I didn't want to go to, but I did. And thank heavens I did, because our business turned on a dime, and we went from making, $500 a month to $1,500, and then ultimately making full-time money working one night a week. And then one of the biggies, Dan Hartley, I used to listen to him over and over and over again, got to spend time with him over the last year, and I can't thank him enough, because I learned that every time I was talking and I was starting to train people, the big thing we wanted to focus on is there's a villain, there's a victim, and there's a victor, and the villain is the system. And so when we're talking and communicating at the KT or through the M&B, it's to remember those key ingredients. The victim is the family, right? We're not taught the things that we truly need, and there's no other company. You can make an argument. There's no other company on the planet Earth that truly does what we do. So we're not competing with anyone. And the victor is our businesses, right? It's you. Put yourself in the middle of your business and realize that it's going to have a profound impact. And I fell in love with the company. What can I tell you? I mean, you listen to Art Williams, and I'll never forgive them for what they did to my mom, what they did to his family. Well, guess what? They did something to our family, and they've done something to all of our families. And this is what we looked like about 12 years ago. I started working in the business. I was living the American dream. I didn't think that there was something else. I thought I was already on my route. How many families do we come across? How many teammates right now do we have, and future teammates that are in that same boat? And unfortunately, I wish we were living the American dream when it came to money, but that was not the case. The first thing that jumped out at me was the Rule of 72, because here I am. I'm a teacher. I've gone to school. I went back to school to become a teacher, and then I got 30-something credits above my master's degree. So I should know. Yeah, I don't know, and neither do the families we serve, right? So what we do is we'll draw. I used to draw this out. Now, obviously, with the Zoom world, we just put it on a slideshow. But you get people to understand that the system is set up against us. You got the 3% column. What is that? That's savings at the bank, and that's like having a whole life policy, right? Insurance companies, banks, they're in business to do what? Make money. Except they have the dubious distinction. They're going to make money with whose money? Our money. So you have to always be mindful of that. You look at the 6% column, and that, hey, if we're lucky, because we're all just led to do our 401ks on our own. And that's a big thing we harp on with our teammates and with the families we serve is hey, has anybody ever sat down with you? And you know how your 401k has all those different options? Has anybody ever gone through and said, hey, well, you know what? This would be appropriate. This would be appropriate. No, this wouldn't be. Here's why not. And specifically giving an understanding of how the investments work. Now, I know we don't give recommendations on 401ks, and that's not what we would do. But we are able to let people know, hey, if you're doing what my wife did, she was investing in a conservative, stable value fund at 23 years old and did that for 17 years. She didn't even get the middle column. She was on the left. So that's a problem for who? That's a problem for all of us if we're not educated. And then you get to the 12% column and you're like, wow, you know what? Compound interest is real. And it's real if we're taking advantage of it. Of course, it's really working against us if it's not. And how many families do we know that are sitting on the left side that want to be on the right side? So for us, when we're working with families, I just look at my own family and we all learn to tell our story, right? And everybody's got a story that's on today's Zoom. If you haven't thought about telling your story, guess what? Maybe that's what you walk away from. And you go, you know what? There's a part of this that I need to do. I need to tell my story. So where were Carol and I? Debt free? No. Stressed to the max back in 2010? Absolutely. I remember we took a vacation to Disney, put it on a credit card. And when we met Dave Shimp, the gentleman who's now an RVP, very successful, he's been on this call, and he trained us, he helped develop us. Him and Dave and Cindy were instrumental in changing our life. Why? Because we were the typical family, right? We worked check to check. And unfortunately, we were still paying that credit card off 3 years later when we met Dave. Insurance, we talk about a screw job. And I know when the panel was talking before we started, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, we were totally getting taken advantage of. And how many families fit this mold? We had a group program through my job. I'm a school teacher. They stuffed my mailbox. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get something, right? This is way before Primerica. But I don't know that there's exclusions. I have no idea. And how many people don't? And so guess what Dave did? Dave said, hey, listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to call the company and ask them what happens if you're out of work over 90 days. And if you're out of work over 90 days, and then you die, ask them what happens. And guess what? I wasn't covered. And I remember flipping out on the rep and catching myself saying, I'm shooting the messenger, but how is this legal? And then you look at, this is the part that really hit home. You look at the world of investing, right? Here I am struggling to get by. My wife and I are doing the best we can for our 3 kids. And we're putting $25 a paycheck into the credit union for each of my kids. Carolyn's got all her retirement savings in her 401k in a stable value fund earning 3%. And I've got my money and I'm invested middle of the road because I don't want to be too aggressive. Like, I knew nothing about nothing. And they had me in the wrong share class where I'm making more money off me instead of for me. We estimated that we lost out on 300K. I don't know about everybody on the call, but if you haven't done it yet, figure that out, right? Figure it out for your family so you have it as part of what you get to say going forward. Because that was just my wife and I. Then I looked at my brother. Then I looked at my parents. Then I looked at my grandparents. Guess what? It cost our family millions of dollars. And guess what that means for each and every one of us? Don't apologize to anyone for anything, because you're here to make the world a better place, and you're here to educate people and let them be empowered. If they want to take advantage of what we have, great. And if they don't, hey, listen, no harm, no foul. But I'll tell you what, when we draw from that strength, we can build an army. Each of us can make sure that the families in our community are getting the service, getting the care and the love that they deserve. Like, people deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And it doesn't happen when it comes to money. And guess what? That's where, when we build the financial house for families, all of a sudden their eyes open up. And one of the things that we do, it's a staple in our business, is, hey, that emergency fund is real, right? Because emergencies happen. When you're dealing with people at any age and stage, they know that. So what can you do to show them real world? Because all of a sudden, we can live in the theory world and have people leaning into the conversation, but you want them telling you they want the next step. So when we train our reps to do that, they get the next step from those families. Well, guess what? One of the things that we're big on is saying, right, well, when we're on the webinar, this is from last night, we're doing the Money in Business webinar, right? We got our op meeting going on. We did an emergency ops. It was 14 people, but still 14 people learning, great. One of the guys' name's Matthew, and I said, all right, Matthew, where do you do your savings? Because we're talking about an emergency fund. He said, Key Bank. So we look it up right in front of them so they know that we're doing this. Type in Key Bank savings rates. Now, it's nothing about Key Bank, right? This is any bank. You could do this for any bank. And then what opens up? You're able to put in the zip code, and then it says, all right, look for it. and I find the rates. Here you go, rates and fees. Click on that, and then you get the rate. What's his rate? 0.01. And there's a lot of big banks out there. That's 0.01. JP Morgan Chase, biggest bank in the country. Guess what? It's 0.01. So show people, when you want to make that impact, or at least how we teach, is show them, right? If they tell you it's a problem, then they're going to want to do what? Fix it. But if we don't know it's a problem, how do we fix anything, right? I didn't know it was a problem. Carolyn and I wouldn't purposely try to do something wrong. So you got $25,000, you got 40 years to grow it. Now we're going to put in the 0.01%. Well, when you look at that number and you say, all right, well, how much interest are they going to give us over the next 40 years? Is that a great deal for us, or is that a great deal for the bank? I mean, come on. And you want to get people fired up. They're fired up. Matthew was fired up. Matthew's got an IPA, going to do his IPA tomorrow. Guess what? His wife is excited for him. He's excited for him. Why? Because this is not what he wants. And we then said, all right, well, let's take a look at this. And what would be normal? Like, listen, there are other accounts that are on interest, right? Bank accounts, one place to get interest. Where else can we get interest? Well, what if their accounts are earning 5% interest? And what I'm talking about here is that a profound difference, right? When you talk with someone and you say, all right, $100, $150,000, which one do we want? This isn't a complicated conversation. And it's not complicated for our reps to do. It's not complicated for us to do. And it's not complicated for somebody to go. That's a problem, right? And we're looking for people that see this as a problem and they want to be part of the solution, right? So from a recruiting conversation, that's a great thing to say to somebody and say, hey, do you see this as a problem? Yes. You want to be part of the solution. Great. We can talk more. But when it comes to where do we get the 5%, right? And we know money markets right now are 4%. So, okay, maybe they'll go to 5%. But historically, we could always use municipal bond funds as a secondary emergency fund, right? Like you got your money market or your savings for the first couple of months or so. But then above that, we can look at money. And if you haven't done this with your teammates yet, or if you haven't done this for yourself just to get a feel for it, do it. Why? Because you can look over the last 40-something years in investing in a municipal bond fund that maybe has that kind of track record. And what do you notice? Anytime there's a down year, it's down very little compared to when the stock market crashes. And the very next year is double digits. So it's a very safe loop if we teach families about that as an option. You can put the money in today, take it out tomorrow. Now they need to get educated. And obviously we're going to talk about municipal bond funds, like everybody on this Zoom. You're going to need to be securities licensed, but you can at least conceptually let them know there's an account that's available. And hey, if they want to know more, great. When we sit down and do the F&A, that'll be a great time. You'll learn all about it. Now, one moment, please. All right, here we go. So that's the emergency fund. Now, the other part, this is a staple in our business. And for the builders that are on today's Zoom that are like, all right, well, how do I manage my time? Well, when we're working, the best thing you could do is work with groups. So you've got your teammates that are coming on board that need to be educated. They need to know what to do when it comes to their savings. So why not have them on a Zoom and you have 6 or 8 or 10 at a time, right? And what can you show them? You just say, all right, listen, talk about basics, right? We open up, we turn on the news, we look at the Financial Times, whatever it is, it's popping up. They're talking about the stock market. Well, the S&P 500. Well, we know we've heard of it. Well, what is it? And we need to immediately displace the misnomer that somehow, some way, we're going to lose all our money, right? So if you show somebody the top 10 and you show somebody the bottom 10, and there's obviously 400 and some companies in between, what are the chances of all these companies going out of business at once? And so therefore, what you're going to find and what happens and what we're doing is we're teaching them that you're not going to lose all your money, right? And we go through a great piece of literature. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you look at it. It's called The 92 Years of Bulls and Bears. It's from Franklin Templeton. It's one of the investment companies here in the US. It's all over the world. I take that back. But the S&P 500 is what they use as the equity part of it. But what I've learned and what we teach is that you can pretty much hang your hat that 75% of the population is not even in the right profile, never mind invested properly, right? How many people are in a 401k right now that has a target fund? And for those of you that don't know what target funds is, it's just a mutual fund that's got a date on it, so that if I don't know what I'm doing and nobody wants to help me, I can put my money in that and it's supposed to guide me to retirement. But here's the problem with 90% of the target funds. I could be 20, 20 years old and start saving, and I'm not going to retire till I'm 60, and they already got me investing in bonds, which if we understand this relationship between stocks and bonds, stocks grow faster than bonds. So we're going to want to have more money in stocks than we would in bonds. Aggressive growth, that phrase, without any education, is going to make most people say, I don't want to do that. And if they do it because somebody's telling them to, they're doing it against their own, they're doing it against their own will because they really don't feel comfortable with it. And I feel it's our responsibility. So when we're working, our reps will teach. This is one of the first things they'll do. I don't care if you have $25 or if you have 25 million. This is the conversation they'll start with. Why? Because by the time you're done, they understand you can go through the worst times. I mean, the worst, depression would be arguably the worst time you've ever experienced. And when you look at it, what do you see? Like, it's a really amazing thing when you look at what's on the screen right now, because if you ask most people before you show them this, what do you think would happen if you started investing and it was the depression? You had 100 grand, you put it in right now, and you were aggressive. Then they're going to tell you, please, I lost my shirt, I must have lost it all. And you look, it starts with $1,000 on the left, and 10 years later, at the end of the decade, it's $995. We lost $5, 0.5%. Like, that is not a problem for most people if they're educated, because then they feel a little bit better about being aggressive if that's a recommendation that somebody's making. And then you look at long-term investing, and you're now talking to a group and you're trying to teach them, and that investing is the exact opposite of gambling, because gambling is what most people think of. And when we look at it and you say, all right, well, we look over the 1 year, and that's what it shows. The best 1 year is 60%, the worst 1 year is 43%. Then we look over a 5-year stretch, and all of a sudden, hey, you can average 28% a year for 5 years. And of course, you could lose money. And then you go to the 10 years, and then by the time you get to 15 years, what do you notice about the long-term investor? It's set up for us to win, unlike the casino, where if you were gambling for 15 years, you expect to be at a loss. And the best part about how we structured our business, and I recommend it, as a staple in everybody's, under promise, over deliver, right? The F&A is the centerpiece of our business, right? And so what we're doing is making sure that we're in the distribution of F&As, and that we have people that want to be in the distribution of. But the point of it is, when you're looking at it, you say, all right, what do you notice over a long period of time? Guess what? The worst was 8.5%. The best was 17.3%. This is a Larry Isaacman. He's a senior vice president I work with directly. And he's like, I don't know if we're going to get the best. I don't think we'll get the best. I don't think we'll get the worst, but somewhere in between. Well, now you're setting realistic expectations for that family. So you can underpromise and overdeliver. And how many of us know that over the last 50 years, at least this is till 2021, I didn't update it for 2022, but that the stock market, the S&P averaged over 11%. So when they see that 12%, they don't think that you're making that number up, that it's real, that you can get double-digit returns. And then the analogy world, right? If we're looking at the long-term rewards of investing, it's 3 steps forward, 1 step back, right? You're doing the dance, right? On the left, it shows that you earn 10%, but to get the 10%, you need to do what Arleigh said, right? You need to stay the course. If your goals don't change, then your investments don't change, and for the most part. And Arleigh, you did qualify that, and I say the same thing about the way we run our business. But if you look, you had 20 years that were down, and this is another Franklin Templeton piece, great literature. It was Legg Mason before, and then they combined. 20 years down, and the average down is 12. 65 years up, and the average up is close to 20%. 3 steps forward, 1 step back. It's a dance we want to take, right? Because over time we get that double-digit return. And when we look at the down periods, what are they followed by? In general, very strong up, right? 37, down 30-something, up 30-something, and 38. 74, down 26. Look at the up 37. Then we look at 08, same thing. We look at 2002, which is a lot like what happened last year, right? It was not quite 20%, but here it was down 22. In 2003, up 28. So unlike everything else, when the stock market is on sale, most people are afraid, but what should they be? Excited, right? We're buying great companies, whether it's, think of the things people use, whether it's Apple or Disney or Google, right? We use these things daily or we benefit from them throughout our lives. Why not benefit as an investor? So here's one of the big things. And now we'll get into that conversation, right? So we start thinking about investing. And of course, it could be extremely complicated. We could be like, oh my gosh. But when you look at what's on the screen, we teach people stocks. First off, you're going to be diversified. So what does that mean? That you're not going to put all your eggs in one. And I hold that because we'll all answer basket. We teach our reps to do the same thing. And guess what? I love when I see them do it. It makes me feel like a proud dad. Right. So now you say, all right, great. And then we go to Blockbuster and we say, what if you owned all these companies in Blockbuster? Well, if Blockbuster went out of business and you had 100 other companies, well, it's just one small piece. You didn't lose all your money. Again, reminding them of things we've taught them earlier, happening again. So stocks are the gas pedal, bonds are the brake, and we're driving to retirement. Now, if I'm in my 20s or 30s or even 40s or it could be older, should I be hitting the brake? Well, you can make a strong argument, no. If you said, hey, Mark, what do you want to do? I want to be stocks my whole life. I want to get to a point where we've accumulated enough with this business that we can live off the dividends later on in life, right? How many people would like that? Now, most people, that might not be an option, or most people don't have us to help them with programs that'll give them that option. But at the end of the day, this analogy really makes it easy. So when we talk with families, when we're teaching our reps, we say, hey, if you're getting close to your destination, well, then that might be the time to hit the brake, where you're going to have a little more bonds in your portfolio. And of course, it'll depend on what they're trying to accomplish. And again, now talking about the teammate side, not that this isn't great, that this can be used at all times. We love to use it when we're dealing with younger clients or talking through like that rule of 72, something I want to point out. When you look at that 12% column in the rule of 72, or when we're talking about this, we like to position it, talk about the Roth IRA here in the States, right? The idea that we can put money in a tax-free account. And then we also like to talk specifically about the idea that, hey, if this is your kid, because if you're already, as somebody who's field training somebody, talking to somebody about their kid and what can be beneficial to their child, how do they feel about that field trainer, right? They're going to feel good about the field trainer because the field trainer is obviously giving value to that family. And at the end of the day, that's what I was taught. There's a value gap that you want, right? Tom Forst, anybody who knows Tom Forst, icon in our business, his big thing was you create a value gap. And when you create that value gap and people see it and realize it, they'll want to walk through that door. Well, here you look at that 12% column for their kids, or you look at this and say, hey, at what age do most people get serious about saving for retirement? It's a good phrase, right? It's a phrase that pays. Now, if you deal with a younger person, they're going to say younger age. You deal with an older person, they're going to say an older age, most likely. But $50 a week, I don't think $50 a week is going to break anybody's back. And if you ask somebody that, they'll tell you the same. So could we do $50 a week? And when you look at that, are we being taught that that's going to be over $1.6 million? And then you wait 1 year, right? 1 year, what's the big deal? 22, 23, and there's a whole bunch of reasons people wait, right? And you can have people tell you why they waited. Are we being taught that that's going to cost us over $140,000, like 10% of our retirement gone because we waited till we were 23? Now, most people don't realize that. I started in my 30s. So I'm living this, right? This was what happened to me. I thought, all right, I'll start when I'm in my early 30s, right? And guess what? I gave up on more than half of my retirement. Now, I don't know about you, but most people, if they knew this, would they want to change it, right? Easy conversation. And then if we wait till we're 40, will we retire? Maybe. Will we worry about money? Definitely. And that part we can resolve. What? How can we fix that? We can fix that by getting to families earlier. And if somebody is playing from behind, showing them how they can try to play a little bit of catch up. Obviously, time is the biggest thing we can have on our sides. But how many people can we get introduced to by just asking and showing things of this nature? But if you're building a business that is securities driven, where you're buying term and you're investing the difference, and you're building your teammates and you're getting those game plans together for those families, well then, hey, you're going to be in the business of helping people make decisions of, hey, I'm going to start paying myself first. And one of the things that we'll teach is, hey, has anybody ever taught you percentage-wise how much money you should be saving out of the gate? Well, 10% if you want to create stability, 20% if you want to create wealth. Right? If we do that, we pay ourselves first. Now you start getting that packing, pack compensation is people that are putting into the investments that we set up month in, month out, month in, month out. Right? And you think about a 20-something-year-old or a 30-something-year-old, they're going to be putting into that account for the next 30-something years. That's great for who? How many people right now only have a job? right? I remember how that felt. They only paid me for what I did over the last 2 weeks, and then I got a paycheck. But when people get to work with us, what's the power of everybody that's on this call? Everybody's got an investment license. So what does that mean? When you help a family, I fell in love with the idea that I helped a family 5 months ago and I'm still getting paid on it. That I helped a family last year, 5 years ago. Is that happening at our job? That's a great conversation for everybody who asks, is it commission, right? And you kind of open up their eyes to it. But at a district leader, by year 5, you get $1,000 in recurring income. As a regional, it's $1,200. As an RVP, hey, that's just we're talking about a lot here. We're talking about $1,000 a month. There's a lot more than $1,000 a month that we can cultivate. But you know what? Sometimes you need to lean into people's belief until they build it bigger. But here's what I can tell you. We live this. Mark and Carol and Spina working 1 night a week. The five years that we had our investment license, of which 4 out of 5 would work 1 night a week, we created more of a pension for our family than the 24 years that I was a school teacher full time. Like, tell me that's not a great opportunity, but also tell me that's not a problem. And think about that and think about how cool it is that we can, how many families could get that benefit and have their pension that they don't have for their family. And then in the distribution world, hey, RVPs that are serious and said, hey, I want to keep building these leaders that are focused on making sure that families in the community are getting the savings and doing the savings properly. And then all of a sudden you're looking at recurring income of over $7,000 a month, or close to 7 in this example, right? It's a big deal. Obviously, it starts with us. It starts with us as field trainers taking the lead. I know Dave started with me, and I want to share my story a little bit because guess what? It'll remind each and every one of us of how do we build our business. We do field training appointments. Right? We're talking with people. We're getting them out in the field, right? We're in the business that if somebody knows what we're doing and somebody else has a question, then they'll know they can steer that person to us. They can say, hey, I know. Like when I sat down with my brother and once they knew what I did, anybody that had a question, they could say, you know what? My brother could say, you know what? My brother works in that spot. If you want, I know he can answer that for you. If somebody asked a question, now we have other people supporting us. And these are the folks that wound up getting help. Dom and Ann were a byproduct of field training because that's obviously as getting field trained, it was great. I learned everything I needed to learn about simple plans and all kinds of great stuff. Dave took care of that. I wasn't securities licensed. Same thing with my mom and dad, right? And then that ultimately led to my aunt and uncle in the middle. But everything else was after I was field trained and just what kept coming in after. And you know what? I was at least he was smart enough to keep asking me, hey, listen, who else can we sit with? And setting them up beforehand. So I didn't bail. And guess what? We sat down with my buddy Herb. If you look at the timeline of this, I think this is something that's important for everybody that's on this Zoom. Because when we're in that building stage and we're trying to build our business, we want it to happen yesterday. And sometimes it doesn't work that way. Well, guess what? It didn't work that way for Mark Spina. But the good news was, as we build it, and Arleigh, you've done a tremendous job of showing us, I remember at MIT, I've seen it since, of what it's like to develop a lifelong client. And what you see is this is just, the circles are the teammates that have come from this. And the tree itself are the families that got helped. And all from what? From sitting with one person, and then you watch it just grow from there. That's the beauty of realizing that we're all in it for the long game. You're going to become a pillar in your community. Your business is going to be getting conversations when you're not around, and people are going to speak positively because you do what? The right thing, right? When the company says we do what's right 100% of the time, you don't need to be the best to give people something significantly better. And every one of us gets to do that, even if we start at ground zero. And what came from it? A ton of life sales, a ton of securities, teammates, fully licensed. Like that's the way we build our businesses. And the reality is when Arleigh was going over the numbers and you start looking at the tidal wave that's coming, this is what we talk about because I know it's real, right? We've been talking about, Bill Arender talked about the Great Wall of Wealth decades ago. Well, we're living it right now, right? And what's coming right now is baby boomers are retiring at $10,000 a day. And how sad is it that most of them do not have somebody helping them? Until our business meets their world, they're going to do that on their own. Is that fair to them? Would we want that for our parents? Would we want that for ourselves when we're at that point if we didn't work in this world? Of course not. There's 68 trillion. A trillion is a million. It's beyond most people's understanding. And the way that we get there is we have to help our teammates. We have to help our teammates earn income. And having the securities license, each and every one of you have a goal. One of the greatest things that Tom and Barbara Forst taught us was what's less than one? None. And what do I mean by that? Tom ran accountability like we run now, which was, hey, focus on doing one thing a day. I'm not saying you can't do 10. I'm not saying you can't do 20. But if you're on here today going, you know what, I really want to get this thing going, I want to get in gear, then make it one. Make it one new name, one new number, one new person that said they'll take a look at what you're doing. And then what you watch over time is you start to see cash flow grow. But I'm showing this because we're not number one. Tom is, which is pretty stinking awesome in our state, not in the company, but in our state. But how many of us want our teammates making more money? Hope everybody's hand goes up when I say that, right? Because at the end of the day, that means more families are getting help. But you start where you stand and the struggles that everybody goes through. And I know this young lady I'm going to show next, she's struggling right now, right? She's growing, but not everything's going the way she wants. She's on our team, right? Great kid. Name's Melanie Walker. Used to work for a tree and shrub company, was bartending on the side. She fell in love with the business, same way we all fall, not all, but I know we fell in love with the business, which is, you know what, this is a business that does the right thing for people. I wasn't doing the right thing. Mel will tell you she wasn't doing the right thing. But we all start where we stand. We can't compare. We gotta compete. Compete, don't compare. That was one of the staples that we came up in the business because sometimes you can start hearing everybody's numbers. You think you're the worst thing ever, and you're not. We're all human becomings, and we have to look at where we are and understand that we're growing. Take the McGill-Illich conversation, right? Our fingernails grow. We don't see it, but we're growing. She's growing. She took home number one. And I'm looking forward to her taking the next step, just like I'm looking forward to each and every one of you to take the next step. Because the fact is the company wants to pay us more. They want us to help more families. And they've set it up right now. We get $1 billion in cash flow. I don't know how many companies are paying out $1 billion in cash flow that want to pay more. Like to have our CEO say, I want to double that number by the end of the decade. How many people want to double their incomes at their current work world? Well, guess what? You have everything at your back to make that happen. And for us, we're just so excited that we get to take the ride with something that's so special and so it's so needed, right? At the end of the day, people need what we do more than air. And unless we all get out of our comfort zone and all keep moving forward and all don't take this thing for granted. No regrets. As we do that, you're looking at doubling and tripling and quadrupling in size. It could be depending on the team size this month, this year, over the next 3 to 5. But guess what? As we do that, it just means more families are getting help. That means that crusade that we're all on and that we all get to be a part of is alive, it's well, and it's working. It's working for who? Working for the families in our communities, and it's working for our businesses and our families directly. All right, well, I hope that was helpful. I know there's some questions. I was told to take a certain amount. Arleigh, hopefully I didn't go over.
Super good, Mark. Thank you very much for that incredible information. And there's no doubt that, getting the future pulling because you show future value, referrals never stop coming in, and building by adding, and the multiplication will happen is what I saw a lot of. And I think that's a message that everybody needs to pick up. So I don't know who's handling the rest, but I'll turn it back over to
Scott,
whoever.
I think is
Actually, Mark, you did such a great job, buddy. We have no questions.
Thank God.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Mark, I have a question.
Shoot, John, shoot.
So I'd like you just to tell everybody quickly what you do on Thursday mornings.
Yes.
That's different from this, because that platform I use and has been really helpful to our team. And so could you just share with everybody the kind of training that you run and what that looks like so they could start running it? Because most of the people on here are very good in the investment field.
So what we did was we were looking for more interaction, right? We're less passive learning, more interactive learning. So we started a Thursday morning Zoom with our reps, which then expanded to the teams that we're working alongside with, which is some are in our organization, in our hierarchy, some are out. And what we're doing is we have a rotation. I'm on this, I'm leading some of the Zooms. We have Eric and Jamie Gilman up in Maine, and Hal and Jennifer Smolenoff in New Jersey. And what we do to start the Zoom is we get good news, right? Because the goal is to start getting people to share their successes, right? And let them feel good about it because they've earned it. And so we'll start and we'll teach through the good news, like what just happened when I ran it last week. Somebody talked about an ABLE fund, right? ABLE accounts aren't accounts that you hear every day, but it's for people that are disabled prior to age 25 and younger. So we'll go through that. And then we'll dig down on skill so that we're interacting with the group, but we're getting into absolute skills that they can develop. And Brad, I got to tell you, you were major, Brad Gerard. You were amazing because your talk, and I think it was either at convention or before, totally got us thinking, hey, we're missing the opportunity to get people better by our 1 hour a week or hour and a half of just pouring into them and getting them skilled. And so we'll take that, we'll teach the skill, we'll go through it, we'll get Q&A, we'll be able to stop, people can ask questions the whole time. And that's what happens. And so you're getting clarity, you're getting understanding, and it's a community, a small community. There's only about 150 people that are on, but it's a small community of people. And I'd say right now about half of RVPs, and they're plugging in to do what? Just to get the people on this Zoom. You guys know you're all at the highest level, the highest of the highest when it comes to knowledge and skill set and just, the ability to influence the reps that are still not there. So we got that. And John, I got to thank you because you gave that to us. Like, you were so good. I remember watching you over and over and over before we even had a friendship, and just being so thankful that somebody would be so giving of their system and of the nuances. And it really had a big impact on us starting the class. I just want you to know that, John. And I also want you to know that, Brad, because the two of you, with your messages and with what what you've done in your businesses, impacted us from afar to say, all right, well, we can do the same for our reps. And John, if I missed something that you wanted from that talk.
No, that's it. I just want everybody to hear that idea because it's very powerful learning. I tell my guys, if you go in that meeting every Thursday for 6 months, they do MPI. If they do this meeting and that meeting, it's on the same day. So, but I tell them, hey, that's securities learning day. Get that secure for 3 hours or 2.5 hours in a week to study and learn about securities and then get back to building. That's the way I teach it. It's great because in 6 months, you're going to have a whole new skill set. It's going to make you 2, 3, 4, 5,000 a month every month and change the trajectory of your business forever. And I believe that. And so I think that extra training environment helps. So.
Yeah. Awesome job today, Mark. David Goggins says, we don't rise to the level of our expectation. We fall to the level of our training. And we as RVPs and leaders owe it to people to make sure that they have the tools. And John Lavin's always been the master of that, to make sure that people are equipped for the tools to go out and fight the war. Mark, the simplicity of our business, and I tell our guys, look, if you open 10 accounts a month, 10 new account, $25 PACs, at the end of 5 years, you have 600 clients. Now, our average client in our hierarchy isn't a giant client, but they have about $16,000 to $20,000 of assets. And that's probably normal in the company. But at the end of 5 years, you'd have $180,000 of PACs rolling in if you just dealt with an average client, and about $10 million of AUM, which at a division pays you $100,000 a year. I mean, just opening 10 accounts a month. Talk about how do you find those 10? How do you get your people started? If somebody came today and said, okay, I want to do this 5 years from now, I'd love to have 100,000 rolling in residual income. Where do they start?
Well, we take advantage of every option that's available. I think the biggest thing that you can do is get the word out to start, because that'll grow its own legs. So we do what we would expect, right? Where you're starting to talk with people. We will, for those people that say, hey, I want this thing, I need this to happen because I need to stretch and get full-time quickly. You start doing things in groups. You look for your markets that maybe aren't your qualified markets. And you say, all right, well, on those, can I do those in 3Zs and 4Zs, and have those folks looking at what we're doing from two vantage points, right? Maybe they know somebody that they think would be a good fit, plant that back here. And then also, do they see value with it? Maybe there's somebody that can benefit from the services. And obviously there's the opportunity for that person to say, pick me. So we'll usually go through, which is, a big part of how we'll construct the conversation. I also find that, you can use wellness workshops as a big deal, right? So you think about most people and their 401k, and we harp on the lack of education there. So now if you have a teammate that's looking to splinter out and really start to grow those packs, well, getting into people's and talking about the 401k and talking about financial literacy, you could, for somebody who wants to be full-time, do one wellness workshop and have a month's activity just from that wellness workshop. So we'll train on the wellness workshop, and we'll make sure that that's a part of what they're doing. I do think that the best way for people to grow quickly is to start to learn that this is a network. You're going to network where you're going to talk to people, and you understand what they do, and you're going to understand what you do, and the potential to rub elbows. And if it's an area that we don't work in, I'll be able to. If it's a realtor, or if it's something that's not specific where you would be cross-selling or worrying about crossover, then why not? And of course, talking and getting, we use, just so you know, Brad, we use, God, I'm having a brain freeze. She's wonderful. I love her. Out in California.
Cheryl Bartlett.
Thank you so much. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, Cheryl, I'm so sorry. Okay. But we use Cheryl Bartlett's, system of qualifying. So we'll go through, and we'll look and we'll build the columns out and qualify their market, and then help them take control of it by getting in the field. A lot of what we do is in the field, but best thing I can tell you that I know works great is the one, doing more than one at a time. I know Eric and Jamie Gilman, they run a business and they've mastered the art of what they call a launch party. They used to call it a cottage meeting, but the main thing. And it's where you get groups of people in to see what we do. It's almost like a money in business that is it's a combination of a money in business and favor appointment all in one. And he's had tremendous success. I know they're over 30 recruits and over 20,000.
That's for starting. That's when you're starting a new recruit.
Yeah.
It's like a grand opening. If you had a pizza restaurant, I mean, it's a great concept, a launch party. Let everybody know who you know, what you're going to be doing, whether they become clients or not. Eventually they will, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's it. Totally.
Arleigh.
Yes, sir. I think it's phenomenal. I think there's so much training, there's so much opportunity. And I think the biggest weakness everybody has is that they don't dedicate themselves to, this is my prospecting time, this is my learning time, like John was mentioning. And if they would spend that time and say 3 hours every Thursday is learn securities, maybe 3 hours another time is learn recruiting and licensing. But ultimately, it's all the same. You can recruit those securities clients, you can recruit, and most of them will be recruited if that's part of your plan. A lot of times people miss recruiting to the shortfall. If they're going to get their FIN number, there's a shortfall. If you don't recruit to the shortfall, then you're missing a huge 50, 70%. To get a client could pay you $100,000 to $300,000 over your lifetime. To get a recruit that gets to be an RVP could make you $1 million plus and maybe several million. And so you don't know who that person is, and you got to be ready and you got to use that opportunity, because you're not going to build just assets and be really happy if you see everybody else building big businesses. So back to you.
And one thing, if I can, Brad, can I just interject one thing? Because I had an epiphany last week, and I actually went to work with it. And being around long enough, I don't think it's a coincidence. But you look at what's going on in the stock market. Not to get too technical, but we have opportunities that exist right now for the families we serve. Looking at the small and mid-sized space was one of them. And just the idea that we have programs that can protect against loss, but then maybe clients that normally wouldn't benefit from that because of their age could try to take advantage of an opportunity. And I sat with, we have teammates that are part-timers, happy part-timers, but they have clients. And I took the time to sit with them, and I'm thinking of other leaders that are on today's Zoom that may have reps that have a book of business that maybe with a little time with them, they could produce great results for them. And we've seen amazing, I mean, seriously, amazing things that came just from those 2 meetings already. And we're at over $500,000 in volume for those teammates, because I sat down as a leader and said, let me talk with you and let's see if we can find things that would be beneficial for your practice. So just throwing that out there.
You're a pro, man. That's awesome. Hey, Eldon, people are asking, is this the new time? So maybe you can straighten that out and close us down.
Hey, yeah, and leave, we can remove the spotlights, leave John up here for a minute as well too. And, but no, this is not the new time. What we want to do is we had looked at, not being in conflict with the company. I think it's really important when the company calls a play and says, here's an RVP meeting. We need to be on it. That's the game plan. We follow that play. And so we are not going to change this time permanently. We're going to keep the regular time, but this is kind of a one-off. But every time there's going to be a one-off, we want to give you a couple weeks heads up. And so, that's our shortcoming. And we're going to get better at that, at notifying you and saying, hey, this is what's coming up for the change, just so it seems a little last minute for you. But also too, don't forget about Tuesdays. Tuesdays are a very, very important day. Make sure that people are tying into the CRM calls at the start of Tuesday. Kick your day off that way, refocus on client relationships. And then, John, you have been absolutely instrumental in working with this group on the LFIC show. Tell us a little bit about what's going on Tuesdays with LFIC and the vision that you have for that and why people should be plugging in.
Well, right now, thanks, Eldon. Right now, our vision is crusade, and we're back to the crusade, and we're going back to the Art Williams days. And got a call from Greg. This past Tuesday was amazing. Any of you who missed it, you need to go on the LFIC chat and go to the YouTube channel. Someone maybe wants to put that in the chat, and you need to see what Jack Sapolsky did, because what he did was classic old time A.L. Williams crusade. And it was just amazing. And we're going to continue that. As a matter of fact, Greg Fitzpatrick, I'm going to get Greg Fitzpatrick, Dick Walker, Ed Randall, Rusty Crossland. I'm going back to the old time crusaders that started with Art. We'll get Bobby Buisson on. And we want them to talk about the crusade. We want everybody that's newer, that's maybe not securities licensed yet, they're getting started, to have the real message of what we went through, because it's coming back right now. And it's great because people are spending the money and they've got insurance. And now all we have to do is show them how to redirect the money. So this Tuesday, we're going to do a question and answer. We want to really dig back into IUL, but we want to give people a chance to really get some answers now, to give us some specific questions. And so this Tuesday is going to be very geared in on IUL and understanding. We're really trying to dig in and make sure all of our new people, that there's an inventory of videos that they could use to learn the crusade like we had to when we started and we loved. And it was the thing that kept the company together and actually, I think we grew because of the crusade, not because of the dream. I think the wanting to help people and make a difference in people's lives was what we started in. And we got paid a lot of money, built big businesses because the need was so big. So we're going to really continue to hammer away at that.
John, there's no better crusader than yourself. And we just appreciate the leadership that has pulled together to bring that material and bring that show together. And that crusade is the old crusade, the security side. There's so many, you've got to get a crusade and you got to have a passion. And so thank you, Dad, for running the show today, and for Mark for such a fabulous job. Everybody's saying, can we get your presentation on the Telegram chat? So we will get it up there. We will get it out there. All this stuff is available on the MPI Telegram. Everything for information. It's posted on Telegram. So again, thank you, everybody. And look forward to seeing everybody on Tuesday.